Welcome, everyone. We're diving deep today into Surah Al Araf.
The 7th chapter of the Quran.
That's right, the 7th one. And we've got some really thought-provoking excerpts.
They offer insights into the surah's wisdom,
But also,
how its lessons can guide us
in those everyday choices we make.
between good and evil,
Exactly. This surah, it comes from a pretty important moment.
in Prophet Muhammad's mission,
And it really grapples with these questions.
Questions that are still so relevant.
To us today, definitely.
Well, at the struggle to keep our faith.
Right.
The pull of those worldly temptations.
The consequences of our actions, good and bad.
All of that.
It's fascinating how Surah Al Araf uses stories
Powerful stories, especially of the prophets.
that make these ideas come to life.
They're not just abstract philosophy.
Right, but real challenges, real people.
Their successes, their failures.
What can we learn from them? So much.
Even the name itself, Al Araf,
Meaning.
the heights.
Oh, that's interesting.
It refers to a place on the day of judgment, where those whose good and bad deeds,
They're kind of balanced.
exactly balanced, they find themselves there,
Imagine that, on the heights,
witnessing the fates of others.
and not knowing your own.
Powerful image, isn't it?
Makes you think about our choices each day,
And how they might tip the scale.
one way or the other. And speaking of choices,
Surah Al Araf is clear about this.
Rabel.
The importance of divine guidance.
Right, it highlights the Quran as a guide
For those who believe,
and a warning for those who don't,
it's a call to see the signs around us
to pay attention to the warnings.
and choose the path of righteousness.
And these messages, they come through.
Through the stories of the prophets,
Their experiences are so unique,
each one showing the challenges they faced,
trying to share God's message.
and the consequences for those who refuse to listen.
Prophets like Noah, Hud, Salih,
Lot, Shu'ayb, Moses,
their stories are more than just history,
they offer profound lessons.
about what happens when we reject divine guidance.
But there's one story that's particularly striking.
You mean the story of Adam and Iblis,
Exactly. Adam and Satan, it goes deep.
into the core of that human test.
The test of obedience.
Satan refusing to bow.
To Adam, out of pride and envy.
And that's what sets everything in motion.
His constant efforts to mislead us.
It's like a blueprint for our own struggles.
You could say that.
We're bombarded with choices every day.
A constant test.
This story reminds us,
To be aware of the forces that lead us astray.
internal and external, both.
So easy to get caught up in worldly things.
But this surah says,
Remember the bigger picture
how does it do that?
by encouraging us to see the signs of Allah.
The signs that are all around us.
Yes. Look at nature, the complexity of life.
The blessings we receive.
A call to be grateful, you see.
To recognize that divine power in everything.
We may be tempted by possessions, by status.
But Surah Al Araf says true fulfillment
Comes from understanding our place
in the grand scheme of things.
and aligning ourselves with a divine guidance.
And of course, Surah Al Araf talks about
What comes after this life?
Judgment Day
It paints vivid pictures.
of both paradise and hell.
Paradise where every need is met.
Overflowing with joy, with contentment,
But hell, on the other hand,
eternal suffering,
for those who rejected faith,
and lived in disobedience.
it's a stark reminder
Our actions here, they have consequences.
that reach beyond our earthly existence.
It's like cosmic balancing act.
Every choice tipping the scales,
Makes you stop and think.
for sure. And for those whose deeds are balanced,
Good and bad, you mean.
yes, we have the idea of Araf,
That waiting place.
between paradise and hell.
Uncertain, awaiting judgment.
The key theme in Surah Al Araf,
Moderation.
like in verse 7.31,
It talks about enjoying life's blessings.
but avoiding excess
Finding that balance.
between worldly pleasures and spiritual growth.
Keep that scale in mind with each choice.
Guided by wisdom, by a desire to please Allah.
Not just our own immediate desires.
Enjoy life's blessings, yes.
But they shouldn't consume us.
Or lead us away from what matters.
Makes sense. So we've got this image of the Araf
This emphasis on moderation.
and all these stories of prophets
It's like Surah Al Araf is giving us a roadmap.
for navigating life's challenges.
Absolutely. It's a guide to be mindful,
To seek guidance.
to strive for choices that lead to a meaningful life.
We've just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore in this surah.
Let's dig deeper into these lessons from Surah Al Araf.
And see how we can apply them to our lives today.
You know, thinking about those prophet stories before, They weren't just talking, were they?
No, not at all.
They lived these incredibly challenging lives.
Facing resistance, rejection.
Constantly.
It really makes you think about their faith.
To stay so strong through all that.
Must have taken immense courage, trust in God's plan.
Like Noah, for example.
Centuries of preaching.
Warning his people, but they didn't listen.
Imagine that frustration.
Yet, he never wavered.
Never gave up hope.
A lesson in itself.
Right. Absolutely. We all have doubts sometimes.
When it's easier to just follow the crowd.
Noah shows us the power of conviction.
Even when you feel alone.
He understood his duty to deliver that message.
No matter what.
And in the end, his faith was rewarded.
Though his people faced the consequences.
Right.
But Noah and the believers, they were saved.
It reminds us that divine guidance,
even when it's hard,
leads to a positive outcome.
But it's not always, physical salvation. Like Hud and the people of Ad.
They were so advanced, so powerful.
But it's like their success, it made them arrogant.
The surah describes it as feeling untouchable.
Beyond judgment.
Hud warned them about this pride.
True strength, he said, lies in humility.
Submitting to God's will.
But they didn't listen.
Their arrogance led to their downfall.
A cautionary tale for sure.
Worldly success without faith, without humility.
It becomes a trap.
It runs through so many of these stories.
So what's the takeaway?
Our blessings, our talents.
They're not ours to hoard.
They're gifts entrusted to us.
To use responsibly. To share with others.
True success, the kind that lasts.
It comes from aligning with God's will.
Making a positive impact with what we're given.
Speaking of impact, the story of Salih.
And the people of Thamud.
That she-camel. A test of their faith.
A symbol of God's provision.
It was a miracle.
A clear sign.
And yet, they defied God, killing her.
Blinded by their own desires.
Their limited understanding.
Failing to see the blessings.
Right in front of them.
Their lack of gratitude, it led to destruction.
Never take those blessings for granted.
Don't let arrogance blind us.
It makes you wonder, what are our she-camels today?
What blessings are we ignoring, maybe even harming?
Out of entitlement, out of greed.
These stories urge us to reflect.
How are we using what we've been given?
Are our actions matching our values, our faith?
Powerful point. And each story, while unique,
they all point back to that core message.
Obedience, submission to God's will.
Highlighting the consequences of choosing our own desires.
Letting pride cloud our judgment.
But they're not just warnings.
Right.
They're reminders of God's mercy, his forgiveness.
For those who truly repent, turn back.
No matter how far we've strayed.
There's a path back to righteousness.
Always.
And those descriptions of paradise and hell.
Vivid, aren't they?
The beauty, the peace of paradise.
It makes you long for that fulfillment.
And hell, a stark reminder.
Of choosing a path away from God.
The promise of reward. The warning of suffering.
It's powerful.
And for those in between, good and bad balanced.
There's a wrath, that uncertainty.
That's like a metaphor for life, isn't it?
Finding that balance.
Trying to tip the scales towards good.
Every choice, every action.
A step towards the life we want.
The legacy we want to leave.
A call to be mindful, intentional.
Our choices matter, not just for us.
But for the world around us.
Even small acts of kindness, steps towards righteousness.
They have a ripple effect.
Shaping our destiny and the destiny of others.
We've looked at these powerful stories.
Explored paradise, hell, Araf.
Seen how Surah Al Araf emphasizes divine guidance.
But there's more to uncover.
I'm eager to hear about the practical advice.
Those tangible steps we can take.
Let's explore those principles.
And see how we can integrate them into our daily lives.
Diving into Surah Al Araf, it's been really striking.
What's that?
It doesn't just tell us what to do. It gives us these examples, these models.
Of how to live righteously, yeah.
Even when things are tough.
Like a guidebook filled with wisdom.
From those who came before us.
Showing us what to avoid, but also the potential.
The potential that comes with following that guidance.
Divine guidance, you mean?
Exactly. And thinking about what those prophets went through.
It's incredible.
Makes you wonder, what are those key qualities?
Those virtues, essential for navigating life.
That Surah Al Araf highlights, yeah.
Well, one that keeps coming up is humility.
Humility.
The dangers of pride, of arrogance.
The constant warning.
Everything we have is a gift from God.
Our talents, our blessings.
All of it.
It's like that saying, there but for the grace of God. Our accomplishments, they shouldn't inflate us.
They should deepen our gratitude.
And our sense of responsibility, I think.
True humility is knowing our place, you see.
In that grand scheme of things.
We're part of something much bigger.
And that leads to gratitude, doesn't it?
Another key theme in Surah Al Araf.
Appreciating those blessings, big and small.
They're not entitlements, they're gifts.
To cherish, to use wisely.
And that ties into another virtue so crucial.
Especially when facing challenges.
Patience.
Patience, yes.
Life is full of trials.
Moments that test us.
Our faith, our resilience.
But Surah Al Araf says those difficulties,
They're not meant to break us.
but to refine us, to help us grow,
Closer to God.
even when we don't see the whole picture.
Trust that God has a plan
Those trials, they're opportunities,
to strengthen our faith.
our resolve. And with patience, we also need
Perseverance.
that commitment to keep going.
When the road gets rough,
Surah Al Araf says it, the journey to righteousness.
it's not always easy.
There will be doubts, temptations to stray.
But that's where we show our true character.
Our willingness to stay the course.
Keep striving towards our goals.
So we've got humility, gratitude, patience, perseverance.
All these qualities we need to face life's challenges.
But Surah Al Araf also warns us about something.
Something very alluring, especially now.
Those worldly distractions.
Chasing after wealth, status, fleeting pleasures.
It leads us down a path that leaves us empty.
The surah says, focus on spiritual growth.
Build that connection with God.
Find satisfaction in a life of meaning.
Those things, they're temporary.
True wealth is in our relationships, our faith.
The impact we make on the world,
It's not about denying ourselves good things.
but keeping them in perspective.
They should enhance our lives, not define them.
So it's about that balance again,
Enjoying this world, but staying focused.
on what truly matters, yeah.
Living with intention, making those right choices.
Choices aligned with our values, our faith.
Using our time and resources wisely.
Our actions, they have consequences.
In this life and the next.
Striving for righteousness, it benefits us.
And makes the world more just, more compassionate.
This exploration of Surah Al Araf has been eye-opening.
So much wisdom, so much guidance.
Lessons for all of us, no matter where we are.
On our spiritual journeys, that's right.
The Quran, it's something we can always return to.
Always find new insights, new meaning.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yes,
let's take time to reflect.
on what we've learned
How can we embody these virtues, these lessons?
in our daily lives.
How do we strengthen our connection with God?
How do we cultivate those qualities?
Humility, gratitude, patience, perseverance.
How do we make those conscious choices?
Choices that align with our values?
Choices that contribute to a better world.
Questions worth thinking about.
I agree.
And I have a feeling the more we engage with Surah Al Araf, the more those answers will become clear.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Until next time.
Keep seeking knowledge, keep
And I'll be
exploring.
diving deep.